Okay, so as promised, this is going to be the colouring pages that feature in this book and are then reproduced in this book. This one's got one extra illustration, so I'll be looking through that one, but first of all, just to remind you that the title pages have slightly different versions of the same image from Enterprising Engines. So I'm going to quickly go through the illustrations. When there's a corresponding official Railway series illustration, I'll put a little picture of it up so you can see what it's based on. All the illustrations should be orientated with the top of the illustration along the spine. A few in this book aren't. In this book they are all orientated correctly. There's also maybe two instances of pictures being in a different order. When they're in a different order to this book, I'll show you how they're different. So this one was coloured in for me when I got the book. It's quite a familiar image because that's one of the ones that was on the Sodor Island fan site pages when these books were first sort of known about. So that's a copy of a blank one from my other book. So this is a point where the images are in a slightly different order. So in this book, and back to the same order from this illustration. And this one was also not coloured in by me. That's a clean copy from the other version. So as you can see with this one, this picture has not been aligned properly. So make it a little bit harder to see. You can see both of these ones have been put in upside down. Another one that's upside down. So this one, also been put in upside down, is the extra image that isn't available in the other book. I thought it might be a good idea to point out some interesting little features which are in these illustrations. So for example, in this one, this junction doesn't seem to correspond to any that we've got any other illustrations for. So it's not Knapford, it's not Tidmouth, it doesn't look like Sodor Junction. Also, this isn't Thomas, it's got no extended side tank, no splasher. It's not Oliver. So not quite sure who this is. And again for this one, this location doesn't correspond to anywhere we've seen before. So Daisy could be on some sort of rail tour. Maybe this is a part of Knapford that we haven't really seen before. Maybe this is Tidmouth that we haven't really seen before. This is a really nice illustration of Cronk Viaduct. However, there's a difference here that doesn't appear in any other illustration, which is it's got girders on the side, rails, rather than a brick-built parapet bit. It's nice to get these little slice of lives sort of images with Henry being cleaned and the engines resting in the shed. Duck looks really weird here. He does appear later in the book and looks fine, but this doesn't look anything like what you expect Duck to look like, really. Gordon, I think this is Gordon, however he's got the round buffers. Could just be a mistake or could be a different engine. It's really nice to see this tunnel, castle tunnel here, with this branch line on top. However, this doesn't seem to correspond to anywhere on the island of Sodor from the full series. Again, This doesn't seem to correspond to anywhere on Sodor either with the railway bridge over the railway, even though it is a lovely illustration. Hodges did say he was a sort of combination of the previous three main illustrators. And I think you really get a sense of Edward's style, of how detailed this little cab section is here. I'm not sure if it's ever seen in any other of the main series, but we've got Henry sweating here, which is quite a nice little touch. Just another thing that it suggests that steam engines can do. My guess is this is quite a small station on Edward's branch line. And there's a really nice house back there. But these two signs, this says "Come to sunny somewhere." This to me looks like it says Brighton. This is probably the most well-known illustration, as it was featured in the Sodor Island fan site interview with Edgar Hodges. And here you can see Duck is drawn really nicely. My guess is that this is the level crossing between Knapford and Dryall on the passenger branch that Duck's working on. For some reason you can also see there's a coach behind him, so maybe he's taking Annie and Clarabelle to help Thomas out. This is another unknown station. This is James. It could be that he's working on a branch line, or it could be that this is one of the stations on the main line. Maybe Crosby, not really sure. It's possible that this bridge is one of the two on the east side of the island, but because of Bertie being here, I think it's more likely to be the one at the bottom of Gordon's Hill or the one on the outskirts of Crosby. With the mention of the hills, I reckon this is probably at the top of Gordon's Hill around Marron. There are a couple of bridges there that Edward and Bertie would be going through. Also, Edward's sort of blushing is quite flushed, which is another thing that this book seems to suggest engines can do. Again, I think this is probably in a similar sort of area, just because Bertie probably works around the Farquhar Sudbury branches. Brendan branch, I should say. This is James up here, so this looks like it's the main line. I think this is likely to be the bridge between Farquhar and Hackenback. Hodges did also do an illustration for it, I believe, in one of the annuals. Again, I think this is another one near the top of Gordon's Hill. You can see that over here there's the main line that James is on with his goods train. And again, another one probably at the bottom of Gordon's Hill with this bridge, and the mention of hills makes me think that's what it is. It looks like it's the main line because it's double track. In this illustration, based on the one from Old Iron, this is Thomas in Old Iron. However, it doesn't have the extended side tank. The splash is in the wrong place in this illustration, so this could be based on a different character too. So this is definitely Bear. So it follows that this is almost certainly Spam Can, seeing as he does feature quite a bit in these books. This is Edward looking rather weird, but this engine here, I assume is James. But you can see the three driving wheels. It doesn't look like there's a pony truck at the front. But the rest of him looks like it could, and most likely is James. But this is another sort of, maybe a bit like the Gordon before, of being a not well illustrated version of the character. So we've got a return to the castle tunnel here. This time it doesn't have the branch line running across the top. Another bit of Spam Can in this. It's not the Crosby tunnel, and it's not Henry's tunnel, so it's possible it could be, this is what Tidmouth tunnel looks like. Edward travelling through it does make sense, obviously going between Tidmouth and Walesworth. So it could just be fictional, or this could be what Tidmouth tunnel looks like. The difference between this one and the one in the Railway series is Gordon would be here in the Railway series version. He's wearing the wrong buffs in it. What has been replaced by is these two mysterious, well, not mysterious necessarily, but shady engines in the shed. You can't see who they are. Based on his amount of goods yards he illustrated for the annuals and for these books, Hodges did seem to quite like goods yards. You can see some quite interesting bits of stocks. I think this is the first time chronologically there's a hopper. You can see a unusual brake run there. It's not clear what goods yard this is. It could be Tidmouth, could be elsewhere. There's another example of an engine sweating and sort of flushing with the strain of the work here. In the Railway series, this is on Gordon's Hill, and there's the bridge at the bottom of Gordon's Hill here. That's been omitted in this illustration. This is obviously based on the illustration from James and James the Red Engine, However, this part is all completely different. There's a turntable here, but it's really nice to see these sort of non-corridor bogie coaches. The way Hodges illustrates them is really nice. And the same this one. We assume that this is the same shed that James was just in. The nice non-corridor bogie coaches. In the Railway Series illustration, this is the van with the grumpy face. It's nice how, particularly with James, they've used quite a lot of illustrations but given a new story about him taking a special to the seaside. You can see his number 5 is quite badly placed there because of this kid's hand. This is a really nice shot of James. You can see a pier in the background here, which is quite cool. I don't think there's another pier in the Railway series. I can't quite work out which illustration this is based on. There are two that are very similar angle, which it could be based on. Just James. The rest of the scene is completely original to this book. And again here, this is the illustration from Buzz, where James has just been stung on the nose, but it's been repurposed to this lovely image of him pulling into the station, taking the kids to the seaside, looking really pleased with himself. Here we have another repurposed illustration. This is where Thomas has put Annie and Clarabelle into the station and is taking the trucks as part of the same story. This illustration, as far as I can tell, is entirely new and not based on another one. I think it's really interesting how foreshortened Thomas is in this. I mean, look at the size of his tank there. That's tiny. That's almost the TV series proportions. Just thought I'd say that these scribbles are part of the illustration. They're not something that a kid has done before I got hold of this book. There are also, let me just flip back to it, the illustration of Thomas and, there we go. So these heavy parts that look like crayon are all from the original printing. And lastly, even though this is from, there is an illustration for this, for Thomas Down the Mine. Hodges has taken the Thomas and Gordon look from an image from Gordon the Big Engine.
I hope you found it kind of interesting. I just thought I'd end with a list
the one where they
of
interspace outside
the characters who
coaling
appeared.
stage. Also,
there are some mob submissions, so there's no Boko, there's no Oliver,
Down the Mine as well.
there's no Bill, Ben or Mavis, no little engines or mid-Sodor engines, the small engines or the mountain engines. Also characters like Toad, Annie, Clarabelle and Henrietta don't appear. I didn't include the potential mystery engines because I think most of them are just incorrectly illustrated main characters. The only one that I think's of any interest is that one on the first page next to Henry at the junction. I also haven't done a list of locations because I think some of them are a little bit ambiguous. I hope that was interesting. I'll get the rest of these up sometime soon. Thanks.